So running a video company, we use music libraries all the time. But as more and more people are starting to make their own content and use video on social media, more and more people are needing that sort of music. And these music sites have popped up everywhere. They're all over the place now. Music makes a huge impact on the production that you're working on. So try and save a little bit of budget to get something good. We spend probably far too much time looking for the right piece of music for our productions because it has that impact and it gives it a real kind of authenticity if you find the right track. So I've pulled together the top 5 sites that we use across a range of different budgets, and we're going to run through those from 5 down to 1, doing the pros and cons of each of them as we go. So starting at number 5, YouTube. YouTube have got a whole bank of free tracks that you can access. So if you're on a budget, obviously that's quite attractive. They launched that in 2013, I think, with 150 tracks. A couple of years ago, they added another 1,000. They might have more now. Obviously, the advantage of that is that they're free. The disadvantage is that they're freely accessible. Anyone can use them. So they're probably quite common. You'll come across them across YouTube quite regularly. They're quite generic. The quality of them isn't really high, and it doesn't give your brand any kind of unique identity in that sense. The other drawback of that is that it's music that you can only really use for videos that you're creating on YouTube, so it'd be quite difficult to then extract that and use it on videos on other channels like Facebook, for example. But if you're on a budget and you're using YouTube for video, then it's a good place to start if you just need to layer a little bit of music under a video for a project. Number 4, we've got Audio Jungle. Now, Audio Jungle is again a lower end budget service. They have tracks ranging from about £6 up to 20 or 30 quid. The average is around about £20. The pros of this, obviously, that it's quite cheap. There's a lot to choose from, but that's also a con. When you've got lots to choose from and a lot of it's not great quality, you can spend a huge amount of time sifting through that library looking for something that's good. Trust me, I've done it. Most of the tracks on Audio Jungle are done by sort of single producers using electronic keyboards and single sort of studio setup. So they kind of sound a little bit generic and a little bit samey a lot of the time. So if you want something cheap and cheerful, you've only got 10 or 15 quid to spend on it, then that's a good option. But be prepared to spend some time looking for the good stuff. In at number 3 is Pond 5. Pond 5 has got a whole range of stuff, quite a lot of tracks to choose from. Again, they have a sliding scale, so they range all the way from sort of £10 for something up to £80 or £90 for something. A good tool that they've got on their site, which you can use though, is there's a little sliding scale which allows you to set the budget. So if you want to look for something that's in the sort of £30 or £40 bracket, you can just slide that scale down and set your budget by that. The caliber tends to be a little bit higher than Audio Jungle, and you can create lists, so you can spend time looking for good tracks and save them for a later stage if you want. And again, you can choose your kind of budget price there. You get a good track for about 30 or 40 quid. Number 2, getting close up to the top now, is Audio Network. Audio Network has a massive library of music. They claim to have 146,000 different tracks, and the tracks tend to be a little bit more musical. They're created sometimes by full orchestras or bands. They've got musicians there who play their own drums and don't necessarily rely on computers to generate the music. So the music sounds a little bit more organic, a little bit more musical. However, it's a little bit more expensive. Most of the tracks there are £60 or $60. By the time you've put taxes and things on top of that, it's usually about 80 quid per track. They do have cut downs, which is a really useful component. So nearly every track has different versions of it, sometimes 20-second versions, 30-second versions, 5-second versions. The shorter ones can be as cheap as £9 or £10 each. The full track's usually about 80. And there's a huge variety and library there. The only thing that's maybe not so good about them is that you can't create different lists and you can't create different ways of storing and sort of keeping tracks. You have one generic favourite lists, which can get a little bit cluttered and a little bit difficult to search through. But it's good caliber music, it costs a little bit more, and your productions will feel a little bit more unique for it. And in at number 1 is MusicBed. MusicBed is the most expensive of all of the sites we use. However, the quality of the music is outstanding. This is a place where real bands come to publish their music. Quite often the music has vocals, quite often it's written by bands who are out touring, and it's got a really high caliber and a really high sort of spec to the music. The only slight drawback, I suppose, is they don't do those cut downs that AudioBed does. So if you you want a piece of music that's only 20 or 30 seconds long, you're going to have to do a little bit of editing to bring that down. Usually you buy a track and it costs you anywhere between £100 and £200, and all you get is that 3 or 4 minute track. They have a slight sliding scale in that if you're a solo producer or if you're doing something for a charity, the music costs less. If you're doing it for broadcast, it costs more. And there's a sort of a scale that shifts in between that. So on average, tracks cost around about £150 to £200 per project. All of these sites deal in royalty-free music. So what royalty-free means is that you don't have to pay every time the piece of music is played. So a lot of pop music is based around a royalty system, a PRS system, whereby if it's played on the radio or if it's played out somewhere, they get a commission or a small amount of money off that. This music is royalty-free, and what that means is that once you've paid once for the license for your production, you don't have to pay again. It's a flat cost. So the links for all these sites are down below in the descriptions. If you click on any of them, you can go through, have a look at them. A lot of them allow you to just try before you buy. Some of them, like Audio Network, even give you a few trial tracks to try before you start paying for them. Go and have a look, have a root around, go and get lost down the rabbit hole of different musical tracks that you might use. Let me know what you think of them in the comments, and also subscribe here and follow us for the next video.